I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. We've been hit again, this time by snow. Despair is growing. We'll have the latest. But Catholic Charities is on the job, bringing hope almost everywhere. We'll speak with the top leaders. The Mass of Hope, prayers, together with helping hands, will be there tonight. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The new storm is over, but up to 7 inches of snow has been left behind. The falling snow, along with falling temperatures and whipping winds, caused new blackouts in our entire region and hampered the work of recovering from Hurricane Sandy, leaving behind more misery and more despair. Ahead of the latest storm, there were new calls for evacuations, most urgently, as you might imagine, in the areas hardest hit by the hurricane, but the people refused to leave, relying on generators and candles for power and light as reports of looting grow more numerous. In the Rockaways, residents are saying that the threats are so serious that taking up arms, yes, taking up arms, is the best option for staying safe, especially during the dark, powerless night. The new snow, heavy and wet, brought down more power lines and threatened to topple trees whose only support seemed to come from leaning against the lines. On Long Island, about 200,000 people are without power. In the city, the number is just a little less, and in New Jersey, the number is slightly larger, about 250,000 without electricity. Commuting also been hard. The Long Island Railroad suspended service for a time. Airports were closed. Subway service and Metro North delayed. Driving, already difficult due to the gasoline shortage, became tougher as accidents snarled many roads. And in a late-breaking development, Mayor Bloomberg is saying gas rationing will begin in the city on Friday using the odd-even license plate system. Rationing also will be imposed on Long Island. Schools, already disrupted by Hurricane Sandy, were officially open today, but the new snow delayed many classes as school bus service was limited. In Queens, several Catholic schools remain closed because of hurricane damage. And in Brooklyn, 3 high schools are shut after a vicious viral outbreak spread through an evacuation shelter housed in the building. Citywide, about 50 schools are closed because of storm damage. FEMA was closed as well for a time yesterday, too, because of the new storm. The emergency managers at 10 centers in our area suspended operations due to the weather. This center in Tottenville on Staten Island was one. It finally reopened around noontime. Working around the clock on Staten Island are a group of Catholic men dedicated to helping their neighbors through the emergency.
Hurricane Sandy pounded the Staten Island borough of New York City, leaving some of the residents homeless, penniless, and hungry. Knowing local residents were in need, a group of Catholic men pulled together and organized a 24-hour neighborhood resource center.
We started with 2 tables in a tent with a few friends and ended up turning into what you see now here, which is basically the neighborhood's what I call the lifeline, and we call ourselves the Guyan Rescue. Guyan Avenue is the avenue we started on, and being that we had a storm coming, we had to move it inside. And we found a facility that would house all of our products so they don't get ruined, and we can continue taking care of this neighborhood. All the residents have become friendly with us. Some of them even volunteer here during the day to help us. So it's become a second family for a lot of us.
This resource center provides people with free bottled water, groceries, diapers, and there is always a hot meal waiting for the hungry. Friends and family members of the rescue's organizers donate all of the food and supplies.
We basically utilized our contact list on Facebook, and we set up a Facebook page called the Guyan Rescue. But prior to that, each one of us without contacts, reaching out, unbelievable amount of responses from people. So between all the contacts we have, we became almost a central hub with no political help, no Red Cross help, no FEMA help. We are true believers that, God is on our side, and this is showing right here. I had my mom say, "I'm proud of you," and it's a big feeling. Emotionally, I'm sorry.
In Staten Island, this is Chaz Muth for Catholic News Service.
And those stories obviously really inspire. Next, Catholic voters, Catholic dangers, and Mother Teresa's successor as Currents continues after the break. Welcome back. There are new findings today regarding the Catholic vote on Election Day. A Fox News exit poll shows that Catholics who attend weekly Mass voted for Mitt Romney by a 57 to 42% margin over the president. Others who call themselves Catholic but don't attend regular Mass favored President Obama. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is sending a message to the president through our ambassador following Tuesday's vote.
I want to congratulate President Obama on his re-election. I think the United States of America again demonstrated why it's the greatest democracy on earth. The security relationship between the United States and Israel is rock solid, and I look forward to working with President Obama to further strengthen this relationship.
Netanyahu had been seen as favoring Mitt Romney. He will face his own re-election fight next January. And the president of Syria is holding on to his power as he fights a brutal civil war. Many world leaders have been trying to get Bashar al-Assad to leave the country, the British prime minister being the latest to offer so-called safe passage. But Assad says he's not going anywhere.
I'm not puppet. I wasn't made by the West to go to the West or to any other country. I'm Syrian. I'm made in Syria, and I have to live in Syria and die in Syria.
Assad spoke today to Russian television. The civil war is 20 months old with 32,000 dead. The horrible violence in Syria is causing Pope Benedict to change his plans. A papal peace mission to the country is being canceled.
Citing increasing instability and violence in Syria, Pope Benedict announced that he had canceled a planned visit to the war-torn nation by a delegation of cardinals and bishops. The Pope said he had hoped to send a delegation in October to show solidarity with victims and encourage peace negotiations. Instead, the Pope said he has sent a smaller group led by Cardinal Robert Sarah to Lebanon. He'll deliver a $1 million donation and seek ways to improve the Church's humanitarian response to the Syrian crisis.
And that was Carol Glatz reporting for Catholic News Service. The new leader of the Coptic Christians in Egypt is saying tensions in that country are spinning out of control. Tawadros II, elected to his post on Sunday, calls relations between the Muslim majority and Christian minority in Egypt unacceptable. He is demanding the government meet its obligation to protect all citizens. About 10% of Egyptians are Coptic Christians. The persecution of Christians in Asia has increased 400% in just 10 years. That's according to a Christian watchdog group. The worst country is India. And the leader of Germany, Angela Merkel, is saying that Christianity is the most persecuted religion worldwide. Her political opponents in Germany claim she is wrong. Another dispute is threatening one of the holiest sites in Jerusalem. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is believed to be the place of the crucifixion and the resurrection. Its daily activities could be curtailed because of an unpaid water bill. The balance is $2.3 million. The bill's validity is being disputed. The legacy of Blessed Mother Teresa is beyond dispute, her work saintly and inspiring. Now we meet her successor, carrying on the work in the era of the new evangelization.
The work of the Missionaries of Charity takes place among the poorest of the poor in countries around the world. So in those environments, they too are part of the new evangelization.
We already are in most of our communities doing the new evangelization by our work for the poor and in places where often the gospel and the life of the church is not known.
Benedict XVI inaugurated the Year of Faith on October 11th, inviting Catholics to deepen their faith. And the Missionaries of Charity have decided how they're going to do it.
The Year of Faith is a great gift for us, which we definitely want to use to deepen our knowledge and our study of the Vatican documents and of the Catechism of the Catholic Church.
Their aim is to speak of God to all who have known Him, but may have forgotten, even among the needy and the thousands of volunteers who help them in their aid projects.
Stay tuned. Currents will continue after the break. Up next, Catholic Charities. They are the first responder to this disaster. We'll speak with those in charge next. The recovery from the storm of the century has produced many heroes. Earlier in the program, we heard about the work of Lenny Ligotti and his friends, but none have done more than Catholic Charities. Now, the New York Times is starting a campaign to raise money for them and other groups. Catholic Charities has been at work helping since the very beginning, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Father Larry Snyder, the national president, and Robert Siebel, the CEO for the Brooklyn Queens chapter. I asked Robert about the destruction he's seen.
Certainly the Rockaways is, in my experience, in contrast, is unique in the extent of the devastation. Certainly Breezy Point, so hard hit with, I don't know what the count is at this point, 127 homes completely gone. As you go out into the peninsula, and all economic classes being impacted, you know, the poor, middle class in terms of the extent of this. And then you look at other neighborhood Channel in a kind of very similar situation, and then in Coney Island and Red Hook, certainly each of the situations unique, but sharing, you know, a lack of electricity, which is basic to being able to really kind of function on a day-to-day basis.
The same extent of need.
Right.
By all accounts, the hurricane was unprecedented in our region.
Yes.
Catholic Charities, now while you're no stranger to disaster worldwide, how do you plan for and navigate this type of catastrophic event here at home, Father Snyder?
Well, I think we learned a lot from the last really large-scale catastrophe, which was Hurricane Katrina. That caught us all by surprise. We didn't have a plan as to how do we respond to a catastrophe that large. And it was a wake-up call for us. And so what we have been doing since 2005 until now is really investing a lot of time in building up an infrastructure throughout the Catholic Charities network, which would give us the expertise to respond to disasters no matter what the magnitude. And even though, you know, this hurricane it did so much destruction, I think what you see happening in the diocese, and there are like 12 dioceses that have been severely impacted, what you see is an ability to take an assessment, to look at the resources that are available, and then to actually then make to network out and bring in what's needed in those communities. So I would say it's hard to plan because every disaster is different, it's unique. Even in those 12 dioceses, every diocese has their own experience right now. But what we do have, I think, is the resources as far as human resources going, and people knowing how to make an assessment and then to call on all the resources that we can and bring them to local neighborhoods.
Robert, you talked about the extreme need that we're seeing now, and Father, you just mentioned the resources. Is it more helpful to Catholic Charities right now to establish a substantial cash reserve, or is it more helpful right now to receive items like water, non-perishables, clothing? What is the extent of the need that you need in terms of resources that will really help you get to the heart of the need of the people?
At this point, in order for us to remain nimble and flexible, a cash reserve is really what is needed. We have had an influx of so many different items and commodities, non-perishable commodities, and we're embarked now from today until next week, even in our own amongst our own parishes, who at the behest of our bishop have really collected a lot of items at this point. So volunteers now are involved in about 5 or 6 different storage areas where we're going to take all of these items and staging areas out in the Rockaways and different other parts where we're working. But that's a very kind of massive effort. I'll give you an example at St. Helens and Howard Beach, Dooley Hall, a very impacted community, and Monsignor there began to give out the word, and the Dooley Hall began to be filled and filled. You know, so there's an extent where we can't really take in more until we give and disperse. So we're establishing storage sites for all of those commodities. But what we need now is the ability to be able to purchase quickly when we need things, ability to expand the staff base, that is actually coordinating all of these different activities and to really have an ability to support people individually too, because there's a lot of short-term needs.
You speak a lot about the diocese, which of course have been so severely impacted, but I actually spoke to Saints Joachim and Anne, which is a
Right,
nursing facility
sure.
right on the water, and they're going to stay put.
Yeah.
They've decided that they're not going to evacuate, that they're going to ride this out. What do you do? What do you say? How do you support a facility like this
Right.
that could potentially be in harm's way? Father?
Well, I think, first of all, I would trust the administration there that they have, again, assessed their capacity so they know that, for example, if they do lose electricity, they've got generators so that they're not going to put the folks there in harm's way at all. And I would certainly trust them because they would never sit something out if there were any danger to their people. So
Yeah.
my guess is, Robert, that
Yeah,
that
no,
this-
exactly. During the first Joachim and Anne actually had sent out about 20 of its folks to other facilities, the ones with more chronic needs, and maintain themselves. Right now, Joachim and Anne has its backup generator in place. Its cogen system has been refurbished during these interim days and very quickly. But there, the flexibility was so important to be able to go and purchase all these items, etc. And with OEM, have reached the decision to stay in place, that it was safe to do that at this point. Otherwise, we would be evacuating. Joachim and Anne was evacuated pre-Irene, so. And Catholic Charities has lost other sites too, aside from the impact there. A senior citizen center, a Seaview Center in the Rockaways is totally kind of destroyed. Sheepshead Bay, residence for the developmentally disabled, is gone, and we had to really put folks in other of our residences. So there's a long list even amongst our existing programs. But the great thing is we got Meals on Wheels back on track for over 2,000 people receiving Meals on Wheels. All of our home care, folks receiving home care through Catholic Charities. On Thursday after the storm, everyone had been contacted. The more needy cases, the home care workers stayed overnight and stayed with the person so that nothing would happen.
And really quickly, in the time that we have left, for those of us that want to volunteer, that want to support, that want to help,
Right.
how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, exactly. On our site, there are a number of opportunities, ccpq.org. First, to donate if they wish to do that, and then to sign up as potential volunteers. And I described before, we have a lot of logistical challenges that we really need people to help us with. When we move food out into different locations, that really requires muscle and a group of people to do that effectively and well. When we get into issues of cleanup, which hopefully we will in the next week or so, the muscle power to be able to do that. And then down the road, in the long term, is really where the work is going to begin. We need folks with legal background. We need folks with a lot of different kind of skills to really help us formulate a very robust response to this disaster.
All right, I'm afraid we have to leave it there, but I would just want to thank you, Father Snyder, Robert, for all the work that you're doing to help galvanize these forces, to help these people in need. It is,
Thank you.
it is wonderful what you do. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And you can help as well. Donate, please, online at www.ccbq.org or at www.catholiccharitiesusa.org. Now, the ease with which donations may be made online is just one of the wonders of the internet and our modern electronic culture. But with the good comes challenges and dangers, as we hear now from the Archbishop in charge of social communications.
Today, one of the great sickness of the human being is solitude, loneliness. We have the more sophisticated instruments to communicate, and people today are experiencing solitude. They need to feel that they are always connected with somebody. It means that such a kind of communication doesn't fulfill the wishes and the tensions of your heart. We must educate people to take advantage of the opportunities offered to us by new technologies, but to realize that there is something in the human being that is more important than all the facilities offered to us by new technologies. Sometimes the expression of your eyes, the expressions of your face, the expression of your body are expressing love in a deeper way than an SMS. We must rediscover the importance of the human feelings, of the human sentiments, of the human heart. There is an expression of Jesus. Well, what can profit man if he is losing himself? And so we must rediscover all the dimension, the human dimension of our communication.
And we will continue with more currents after the break. A Mass of Hope, a special celebration for those struck by the storm, coming up next. Welcome back. The head of the Office of Emergency Management for New York State has been fired. Governor Cuomo dismissed Stephen Kerr after learning that Mr. Kerr used a state emergency crew to clear a fallen tree from his driveway. Kerr has not commented. Meantime, the governor says the Queens Midtown Tunnel will reopen tomorrow, leaving only the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel still closed. He also says losses in New York from the storm are about $33 billion. Now, for so many, though, the losses can't even be measured in dollars. To help them endure and overcome, a Mass of Hope was celebrated in Brooklyn, and we were there.
Tonight we're at the Cluster Mass for Hope at Holy Name of Jesus Parish in Windsor Terrace. So we gathered tonight to come together to pray for all the victims of Hurricane Sandy.
Many people here in this cluster, this group of parishes, have relatives and friends. They know people who have been seriously affected by the hurricane, so they want to reach out and be with them in prayer and solidarity. So they're having the Mass together as a cluster of parishes.
God is what gets us through it each day, one day at a time. I'm a member of Holy Name Parish, and I'm also a member of Blessed Trinity down at Breezy Point. I myself lost my home to the floods, and we're here to have hope that we can continue.
And the Christian virtue of hope believes that with Jesus as our model, with Jesus as our strength, and with Jesus as our way, there is a future.
I had to do something to help these people, and right now, praying is what I'm able to do for them.
And the hope is for everything to come around to God's way, to mainly be there for each other. That's what it's all about.
We lost all those homes through fire and flood, and thank God no loss of life, but it's pretty hard hit.
It's a wonderful thing for people to see their generosity in the spirit. What happens whenever something tragic happens, the upside of it is people's hearts just become, overwhelmed with compassion.
It's people I've never seen before because we're from different parishes. Some brought clothing, warm gloves, hats, food, blankets, and their prayers. It's just a wonderful way for us to show our support for all those who are suffering right now.
The churches themselves have been hurt. Parishioners have been hurt. Church buildings have been damaged. And so the church is very much involved in the healing process because we as churches need to be healed as well.
My parish was affected by it. Over 100 homes from my parish community were burnt down. Mostly all homes were destroyed. Our hearts are broken. Our homes were destroyed, but in Breezy Point, our faith is still strong.
This is a terrible tragedy, and at the same time, it offers us a chance to be united in prayer and in helping people. We can do a lot.
We've been receiving donations of clothing, of food, of monies, and we're trying to sort it all out and distribute it to all our parishioners so that they have these things that they lost in the fire. and also to offer the sacraments, to be there, to offer Sunday Mass, to offer baptisms and the weddings, that the church is still going to continue.
And finally tonight, the latest casualty of the storm, the Irish play at Holy Name Parish in Park Slope, scheduled for Sunday, has been canceled, and we'll definitely keep you updated about any more changes. Well, thank you for watching. Be sure to be here on Friday for Current's Weekend Review and our continuing coverage of the storm and its aftermath. Until then, visit us online at currentsny.net. Tonight, we leave you with more scenes from the Mass of Hope. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.